Here's what they don't tell you about buying a luxury SUV in 2026. You assume paying $10,000 more guarantees you a better car, right? Wrong. The 2026 Mazda CX-5 just launched a brand new generation that is specifically designed to embarrass entry-level luxury cars. But before you run to the Mazda dealership, there is a massive catch with the 2026 model's engine that might actually force you to buy the Volvo XC40 whether you want to or not. It is a weird year for the car market. Usually, these two cars, the Volvo XC40 and the Mazda CX-5, are pretty friendly rivals. They sit in that sweet spot where practicality meets a bit of premium flair. But for 2026, the gloves are completely off because these two companies have taken two totally different strategies. On one side, you have the Volvo XC40. It is the cool, calm Scandinavian veteran. It hasn't changed its looks much because, frankly, it didn't need to. But underneath the metal, Volvo has quietly shuffled the engine lineup in a way that changes the value proposition completely. On the other side, we have the 2026 Mazda CX-5. This isn't just a facelift. This is a full-blown next-generation model. It is bigger, it has more tech than your living room, and it is gunning for the German and Swedish heavyweights. Today, we are going to break these two down category by category. We need to look at the new styling directions, the battle of the touchscreens, the cargo space reality check, and the one performance detail that could be a deal breaker for you. Let's start with the visuals, because this is where the philosophy gap is the widest. If you park these two side by side, you are looking at two completely different schools of art. Let's talk about the Volvo XC40 first. This car is the definition of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. The 2026 model retains that bulldog stance we've known for a few years now. It's boxy, it's upright, and it's incredibly honest about what it is. It doesn't try to look like a coupe, it tries to look like a small utility vehicle. The Thor's Hammer LED headlights are still the centerpiece here. They are sharp, piercing, and instantly recognizable. Volvo has ditched the Recharge branding for their EVs, renaming them EX40. So if you are buying the gas XC40 this year, you're getting the classic grille, not the blocked-off one. It's a design that has aged incredibly well. It feels architectural, like a modern Swedish house on wheels. The panel gaps are tight, the paint quality is thick and glossy, and the two-tone roof options on the higher trims still make it pop in a parking lot full of gray blobs. Now look at the 2026 Mazda CX-5. This is where things get dramatic. Mazda has moved the design language forward significantly. They call it Kodo design, which is fancy marketing speak for it looks like it's moving even when it's parked. But this new 2026 model looks more substantial. The previous CX-5 was pretty, but it looked a little small compared to a CR-V or a RAV4. This new 2026 model has grown. The wheelbase is 3 inches longer, and the overall length is up by over 4 inches. That might not sound like much on paper, but in person, it changes the car's presence entirely. It looks lower, wider, and more expensive. The front grille on the Mazda is wider now, with a more intricate mesh pattern that catches the light differently depending on the angle. They've thinned out the headlights to these aggressive little slits that look very menacing. And the surfacing on the doors, Mazda does this thing where they don't use sharp creases. Instead, they curve the metal so the reflection of the sky ripples along the side of the car. It's incredibly difficult to stamp metal like that, and usually you only see that level of bodywork on cars that cost double this price. If the Volvo is a block of granite, solid, immovable, and reassuring, the Mazda is a piece of flowing silk. The Volvo says, I am safe and I am practical. The Mazda says, I am driving and I am emotional. If you want heads to turn, the new, larger CX-5 is going to win that battle simply because it's the new kid on the block and the proportions are now pushing into genuine luxury territory. But if you prefer understated confidence, the XC40 is still the king of subtle cool. Now, open the doors. This is where the price difference usually shows up, but in 2026, the lines are blurrier than ever. The Volvo XC40 interior is a masterclass in minimalism. When you sit in the driver's seat, everything feels incredibly organized. There's no clutter. The materials are unique. Volvo uses these interesting, sustainable textiles and recycled materials that feel premium but in a very rugged, outdoorsy way. You aren't getting acres of fake wood, you're getting textured aluminum or driftwood inlays. The carpet actually goes up the sides of the center console and the door pockets, which makes the whole cabin feel cozy and sound dampened. However, the tech in the Volvo is starting to feel its age. You have a 9-inch center touchscreen in portrait orientation. It runs Google built-in, which is fantastic. Having Google Maps natively in the dash is a game changer. But 9 inches is small by 2026 standards. It feels a bit like using an older iPad mini. The bezels are thick, and while the interface is clean, it lacks the wow factor. You also have to use the screen for almost everything, including heated seats and climate fan speed, which can be annoying when you're trying to keep your eyes on the road. Now step into the 2026 Mazda CX-5. This is shocking. Mazda used to be the company that said touchscreens are dangerous, we won't give you big ones. Well, they completely flipped the script. The new CX-5 features a massive 15.6-inch center display on the upper trims. It is huge. It dominates the dashboard in a way we've never seen from Mazda before. And yes, it also runs a version of Google built-in now, so you get that same seamless navigation and voice assistant integration that Volvo has, but you're seeing it on a cinematic screen. The material quality in the Mazda is frighteningly good for the price point. We're talking about soft-touch leatherette or Nappa leather on the top trims, real stitching across the dashboard, and knobs that click with the precision of a high-end stereo receiver. Mazda obsesses over switch feel. When you turn the volume knob or the climate control dial in the CX-5, it has this weighted, expensive resistance. It feels better than the controls in a BMW X1 or an Audi Q3. However, there's a distinct difference in the vibe. The Volvo feels airy and open. The windows are tall, the seating position is upright, and you have great visibility. The Mazda feels more like a cockpit. The center console is high and wide, wrapping around you. It feels sportier, but it can also feel a bit more claustrophobic if you prefer that open, bus-like visibility. The seats are another battleground. Volvo seats are legendary. They are orthopedically designed, and you can sit in them for 6 hours without a backache. They're firm but supportive. The Mazda seats have been redesigned for this generation to offer better pelvic support. Sounds weird, I know, but it basically keeps your spine in a natural S-curve. They're very comfortable, but they're softer than the Volvos. If you have back issues, the Volvo is still the one to beat.
This is the most critical part of the video. This is the trap I mentioned in the hook. For 2026, Volvo has made a significant change to their base model. The standard XC40 now comes with the B4 powertrain. This is a 2.0-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine that sends power only to the front wheels. It makes 194 horsepower and 221 pound-feet of torque. If you want all-wheel drive and more power, you have to pay extra for the B5 powertrain, which bumps you up to 247 horsepower. The B4 engine is fine. It is smooth, it is quiet, and it gets the job done for city driving, but 194 horsepower in a heavy luxury SUV isn't exactly thrilling. It takes about 8 seconds to get to 60 miles per hour. It feels adequate, but never fast. If you spring for the B5 AWD version, the car wakes up. It's punchy, confident, and passes trucks on the highway with zero sweat. Now let's look at the Mazda. And here is the controversy. For the launch of this new 2026 generation, Mazda is launching with a naturally aspirated 2.5-liter 4-cylinder engine. No turbo at launch, no hybrid at launch. That is coming in 2027. That means the brand new, larger, slightly heavier CX-5 is working with roughly 187 horsepower and 186 pound-feet of torque. Do you see the problem? This car has grown in size, but the engine output is staying flat compared to the old base model. While Mazda engineers are wizards at tuning transmissions, and the automatic transmission here is incredibly responsive, shifting gears right when you want it to, you cannot cheat physics. If you were merging onto a fast-moving highway with 4 people and luggage in the car, the Mazda is going to have to work very hard. The engine is going to roar, and you are going to feel that lack of a turbocharger. This is the big differentiator. If you buy the upgraded Volvo XC40 with the B5 engine, you are getting 247 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque. That is a massive difference in daily drivability compared to the Mazda's 187 horsepower. The Volvo B5 feels effortless. The Mazda 2.5S feels like it's trying its best. Mazda used to offer a turbo engine that made over 250 horsepower on premium fuel. Rumors suggest it might return, or the hybrid coming next year will replace it as the performance option. But right now, for the 2026 model year launch, you are likely stuck with the base engine. If you are a driving enthusiast who loves that zoom feeling of acceleration, the new CX-5 might actually disappoint you until the hybrid arrives, whereas the Volvo B5 delivers that power today. However, we have to talk about handling. Power aside, the Mazda corners like a dream. The steering feedback is heavy and precise. You know exactly what the front tires are doing. The Volvo is much lighter to steer. It's designed for effortless parking and comfort, not for carving canyons. If you drive purely for comfort, you'll prefer the Volvo. If you like to feel the road, you'll prefer the Mazda's chassis, even if the engine is a bit weak.
This used to be an easy win for Volvo. The old CX-5 was notorious for having a tight back seat and a small trunk. But remember, the 2026 CX-5 is a new generation, and it has grown. The new Mazda CX-5 utilizes its longer wheelbase almost entirely for the rear passengers. If you are 6 feet tall, you can now sit behind a 6-foot driver with genuine knee room to spare. The rear doors also open wider, almost 90 degrees, which is a massive help if you are wrestling a car seat into the back. It's a huge improvement over the 2025 model. The cargo space in the Mazda has also increased. The floor is lower and the space is longer. We are looking at a much more competitive cargo area that can finally rival the Honda CR-V or Toyota RAV4. It's no longer the small option in the segment. The Volvo XC40, however, is a master of packaging. It might be physically shorter on the outside, but the interior is brilliant. The trunk has this clever foldable floor that pops up to create a grocery divider with hooks. It prevents your bags from flying around. There's a pass-through for skis. The door bins are massive because they moved the speakers to the dashboard. But pure numbers, the new Mazda is physically larger. If you need to carry 4 adults regularly, the new CX-5 is going to be more comfortable for the people in the back, simply due to the stretched dimensions. The Volvo is perfectly fine for kids or shorter trips, but that boxy shape can only do so much magic. One detail to note, the Volvo XC40 has a slightly higher load floor, meaning you have to lift heavy suitcases a bit higher to get them in. The Mazda engineers specifically lowered the liftover height for 2026 to make loading easier. It's a small detail, but your back will thank you. Now we come to the $10,000 question. The 2026 Mazda CX-5 is expected to start around $31,500 for the base model and top out around $40,000 for the fully loaded premium trims. The 2026 Volvo XC40 starts around $41,200 for the base B4 core model, and if you want the B5 engine and the Ultra trim with all the goodies, you are easily looking at over $52,000. So, is the Volvo worth $12,000 to $15,000 more than the Mazda? If we were talking about the 2025 models, I might have said yes. But against this new 2026 Mazda, it is really hard to justify the extra cost of the Volvo unless you absolutely need that B5 turbocharged power. The Mazda gives you a bigger screen, a bigger back seat, a more modern design,
and an interior that feels 95% as premium as the Volvo for a massive discount. You are getting a luxury experience at a mainstream price. Here's the bottom line. If you are a badge snob, or if you simply cannot live with a slower car and need that 247 horsepower punch right now, buy the Volvo XC40 B5. It's a fantastic, safe, and stylish vehicle that will never let you down. But if you are smart with your money, the 2026 Mazda CX-5 is the disruptive choice. It looks better, it feels more special inside, and it treats your passengers better. You just have to accept that you won't be winning any drag races until the hybrid version comes out later. Subscribe for more.